Major Garrett is traveling with the president in New York and joins me now. Major, let's talk about the tone of President Trump's speech. How would you describe the tone?
So it was serious and it befit the place. Now, not everyone believes that. The entrenched skeptics / enemies of America don't believe that. But a lot of nations that ally themselves, the United States, looked at that speech and said, A, it's largely consistent with what American presidents have said before. America is a powerful country that's going to project its power to serve its best interests. But it's also going to work where it can and where those interests are best served within a multinational context. And I think one of the central questions going into this speech is, could the Trump that most people came to know at campaign rallies, the improvisational, hold an audience and explain a kind of theory that he has about America's role in the world? And at that level, I think the president succeeded. America first. It's a great slogan, and it still remains a slogan, largely undefined and not given much more definition by this speech. Because on the one hand, the president said, we're going to look out for our interests. We expect every other nation to do the same. But then he also said collectively to the United Nations, if you want to avert war with North Korea, you're all in this game. All of you are part of this. And so that means to avoid war, the United States is going to have to lean on a multinational organization, which is an evolution, to be kind. Some might call it a contradiction, but it's also a realistic appraisal of where things are. And for those who were hoping or yearning for something that would amount to realism on this big stage, that's what they heard. Now, 2 breaths later, they heard Rocket Man. Right. Which is always the other side of the Trump coin. And you're never going to get just one side, I don't think. So contradiction, or those ideas being at odds of America first, other countries first for themselves, and yet United Nations, you all have to deal with this North Korea problem, those would seem to be ideas that are at odds. And that was just one of a couple. Let's look at his lengthy conversation in South America and in Cuba. It might be regarded as a diatribe against socialism, saying that Cuba and especially Venezuela are examples of failed socialist states, not because they've been poorly implemented, but because they've been fully implemented. And you could see there was something about that line that President Trump very richly and archly loved and sort of wanted to soak in. And he was waiting for the applause. He was waiting for the applause, right. No applause at the UN General Assembly. As I believe George W. Bush once referred to it, it's like a wax museum. Okay, so you don't get a lot of feedback. But at that level, I mean, let's take this criticism of Cuba and Venezuela seriously. If, in fact, America first means we respect your sovereignty and we respect your approach to your own government, and we're not going to tell you how to live your lives, well, this lengthy indictment against socialism conflicts with that, but it also represents American values. Venezuela is descending into chaos. Poverty is rampant. People have died in the streets looking for food. And there was the general implied suggestion that there might be more steps the U.S. might take, possibly even militarily in Venezuela. That's always sort of hanging out there. I don't think that's a real threat, but I think it's designed to focus the attention of Colombia, Panama, Peru, Brazil, Argentina, other nations in South America. Hey, Venezuela is a legitimate crisis. And if the Maduro regime succeeds in rewriting its constitution and imposing a new government almost by fiat, that's a terrible thing for the region and region generally, and that country specifically. So it's not one unified theory. America first, we respect your sovereignty and your ability to look out for your interests, yes, but if we think there are things endemically wrong with your country, we're going to criticize and we may do something about it. Yeah, I mean, we didn't get any insight, or did we get any kind of clarity or level of specificity when it comes to American foreign policy, whether it's Venezuela or North Korea? No, and a couple of huge issues sort of are hanging out there. The president implied, as he has done repeatedly, he'll pull out of the Iran nuclear deal, which is not, and we should stress this because this is very important, and it's not just an Iranian talking point. This is not just a deal between the United States and Iran. Now, they are the central negotiators for sure, and the financial transactions, freezing, long frozen Iranian assets from the Iranian Revolution, the hostage crisis, that was all between the U.S. and Iran. and some of the hostage conversations all between the two states. But China, Russia, Germany, France, a lot of other participants. And it's not for the United States to say whether or not Iran is in compliance. It's the UN's agency, International Atomic Energy Agency, to look and decide. And that agency here at the UN has said Iran is fully compliant. President Trump said, I don't think so, or I'm beginning to think I don't think so, and the United States may reevaluate that. This is a huge issue, I think, in the context of North Korea, because there are some in the Trump administration, and certainly many number of people in the foreign policy community say, Mr. President, look, North Korea is a really significant problem right now. Would you rather have that problem and then have a similar problem because you have pulled out of this Iran nuclear deal and take all the restraints off their pursuit technologically and in every other way of marrying ballistic missiles and nuclear weapons? Or would you rather have a system that at least for 8 to 10 years is in something of an internationally constructed box?
You've got some access to the
regime. You have access and regular access and a means by which to measure that. It's not a perfect box. It's not a completely sealed box, but it is a box. Do you have anything approximating a box in North Korea? No, you don't. And this tension between which is better and can you really take on both simultaneously is at the core of the kind of decisions this administration is going to have to make in the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months.
Oh, Major, thank you so much, Major.